Get comfortable.
He's getting situated.
Can you see me?
He's getting situated.
Well, if they're listening to us on iTunes,
Can you hear me?
SoundCloud, or Spotify.
Spotify.
Can you feel me? Can you see me?
Did you say Kane?
Now somebody's squeezing their car speaker. Nope.
Did Kane start sponsoring us?
No, Cane's could start sponsoring us, or the Great Taste of Tab. Did you move the tab, Cam?
Now you're talking about raising.
No, there's a
Tab.
There is.
This is a true story, by the way, if you're listening, anybody that works for Coca-Cola. Since you no longer sell Tab in Kentucky, I have now been charged with transporting Tab from Point South. It's the lamest remake of Smokey and the Bandit.
Now, James, and Smokey and the Bandit comes up often on this show.
More than Children of Men.
Almost more than Children of Men. How long does it take you to get from Texarkana, Mississippi, and Lexington back? Now that's bootlegging with Tab, isn't it?
Yeah, actually, this is a true joke.
A true joke.
It is a joke, but it's true. It actually happened. Somebody pointed out that if tab running was a crime and we got pulled over, I won't say the name of the individual, but Joe will know exactly who it is.
JM.
Yeah, his exact words were, "I will scream. I was like this, but I wasn't like this till I got in this car."
Yeah, that'd be really funny.
Yeah.
So this is a true story. I do run Tab for a family friend. I hope the family friend at least has the dignity to subscribe to this.
We did go up a subscriber on YouTube. I don't know if you all know.
Hey, whole subscriber. Hot damn.
More than you got. Anyway.
I'm part of this show.
Welcome to Bonehead.
Actually, that's the beginning of this episode.
I'm okay with that. I'm going to go home and watch some TV.
At 2, Chad. Now, what is this week's episode about? Oh, first of all, I got to say, we apologize for the audio problem that we had last week.
Yeah, we don't know what the hell we're doing.
That's part of it. We had a producer, she said... she did like a suck it thing and rolled out the door and
said horrible things about my mother.
But I do want to say we have made it another 20 episodes since she quit. That was way more than most people I think thought we would when she quit.
Yeah. And we even have...
I'm half-heartedly joking and half-heartedly feel really proud about that.
We even got these really sweet stickers now.
I know. And we just found out today that we're going to be at a certain fest in the fall.
Yes, with a table.
With a table.
Where you could stop by and get a sticker.
Yeah, absolutely, for free. Now.
No, they're $30. We negotiate down, Joe. You screwed this all up.
And we may be having a sponsor.
More on that later, perhaps.
Num.
Now, this week's episode is about...
Well, first off, since this episode's coming out on Memorial Day weekend, Joe came up with the brilliant idea
to do Memorial Day movies. But there isn't such a thing, really.
I thought about Uncle Sam, but Uncle Sam is actually 4th of July. So
yeah, everyone I was thinking about, I was like, oh my God, Independence. Oh, no, they're all 4th of July movies. So stay tuned. I don't know that we'll do it this year, but I bet we'll eventually run out of ideas.
Yeah.
We could have done movies that were released on Memorial Day weekend, because that's always been that used to be. Oh
my God! Well, let's throw this away. Start it over.
No, but that used to be the start of summer movies. Before,
it used to.
Before
now it's in April.
Yeah, before Disney.
Before the dark times.
But yeah, so in honor of Memorial Day, in honor of Memorial Day, we are discussing
war movies.
Chad,
you said you were having a hard time with war movies.
I was, because apparently I thought about it. I came up with 3, but apparently I'm not a big fan of war movies, just like the cop TV shows. I was thinking about, because usually when we pick our topic, I've got my 3 right off the bat.
Well, I'll kind of echo you on this, because I was sitting there thinking, I had no problems coming up with them, but usually the way I pick movies is, what do I like to sit down and watch over and over again?
Yeah.
And that's not war movies to me.
Yeah, no.
There's some really great war movies out there, but they're kind of one and dones for me.
Yeah. I'm the same way. They're the only war movie, and I'm not gonna bring it up, because it's not what
mine. I'll kill you.
No. There's 2 war movies that I will sit down and watch repeatedly. One, as I'm going to start off with, I'm going to bring that one up. The other one was it's technically not a war movie. It's Lincoln. I've watched Lincoln 3 times.
Lincoln's on my honorable mention.
Okay. I mean, it is about the Civil War.
Well, and I was going to say, and here's the other thing. I looked at a bunch of movies that happened during wars. And movies like Schindler's List, movies like Grey Zone, which I've talked about before and I won't repeat. But I excluded all those from my list because I wanted to look at movies that actually dealt with, if not directly the war, soldiers.
Exactly. And
that's how I picked my movies. So there were a bunch of movies, like you said, probably honorable mentions, that I immediately started going, nope, because I wanted to actually look at soldiers.
I have 3 pages.
So good, you're going to carry this episode.
Honorable mentions and 10-point type is 3 to 4 lines long.
Cool. I mean, I do have 3, and my number one. I'm actually. This is actually going to be a rare episode for me in that I'm not bringing up an obscure bad movie.
Oh, FYI, obscure bad movie. A shout out to Laurel Hightower Wells, who loved the fish thing. Shared us about the thing about the cartoon 90s
Fish Police.
Yeah, Fish Police.
Yeah.
And then somebody else put a thing underneath where she shared us, and was all excited about it as well.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Maybe you did get that 1/60th person on YouTube.
Yeah.
Listen, there's a lot of great obscure things out there.
Are there?
I almost tagged John Glover. I've tagged him before and he's responded to stuff. I almost tagged him on Facebook or on the Twitter. On the Twitter.
Why don't you get
to say, can we just get Brimstone on DVD already? I mean, I can get it.
Doubt that he has any control over that.
Yeah.
No, I'm sure he doesn't. But maybe he knows somebody I don't.
John Glover, come on the show. Now, who wants to go first? I had a hard time with it too. You all were talking about I'm sorry, I asked that question, but real quick. Because you're right. What's a war movie?
Yeah.
Because there's I mean, and it can be lots of things. It doesn't even necessarily need to be a real war.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is
The War at Home.
Yeah,
that was a TV show.
I'll wait.
See that?
Like for example, I was going to bring up Wag the Dog.
Yeah, that technically could be a war movie. Yeah.
But again, I came at this at the same approach of James, is that it had to have soldiers in it, since we are talking about war movies and it's Memorial Day. So that was mine
all are about soldiers as well.
Yeah.
Did any of you pick the movie Soldier?
No.
It did not even make it to my honorable mention. But even you know who did a lot of war movies, and I'm not going to talk about all of them.
No, go ahead.
Stanley Kubrick.
Yep. So why don't we start off with my first pick?
Go ahead.
Dr. Strangelove and How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb.
Yeah, that's on my honorable mentions.
Because it does have soldiers in it.
Dude, there is several Kubrick films. I picked another one.
Oh, really?
And it's not what everybody thinks it's going to be.
No, it's but no, Dr. Strangelove is by far one of my favorite war movies of all, and one of my favorite movies, period, of all time. It's probably
that's not a real war either.
No, it's not a real war.
It didn't happen.
It didn't happen.
Yeah.
But it was directed by Stanley Kubrick, and so Stanley Kubrick is the head writer, but somebody who doesn't get mentioned as being a writer for this show is Terry
Sutherland, who was insane.
Yes. He also wrote Easy Rider, Casino Royale with Peter Sellers, The Cincinnati Kid, and Barbarella. So why was he insane? Tell me some stories.
Karen Black has a really good story. Karen Black has passed on now. She was a wonderful actress. For a lot of our viewers or listeners, if you're of a certain age, you probably know her as the original Mother Firefly from House of a Thousand Corpses. She wasn't in The Devil's Rejects, and now she's passed on.
Before that, though, if you watch Family Guy, they have a throw-out line to her in an episode where she lands a plane safely, and they're like, oh, just like she did in Airport 77.
Yeah, and she's in a great horror film with Oliver Reed from the 70s called Burnt Offerings as well. She was in a ton of things. What's that vampire movie where the lungs come out? It's in the 90s or 80s. Doesn't matter. She told a story about working with him and about him trying to find a certain kind of girl that would have I don't want to offend anybody, but this is the story was told. He liked girls with big bushes.
Okay. So that they'd
He was.
I'm trying to come up with a joke about the stuff that people put in front of their houses, but no.
Topiaries?
Yeah, topiaries.
So you know that whole scene in Sling Blade from one of the greatest character actors of all?
Yeah, J.T. Walsh.
J.T. Walsh and how he picks them and all that.
Yep.
That's almost the story she tells about Terry Sutherland.
Wow. That's disturbing.
Google it.
No, I don't believe you.
Just don't Google it using certain search words.
At work.
But Peter Sellers, George C. Scott, Sterling Hayden, who actually came out of retirement from this movie.
I didn't know he was in retirement for that. But
He
Sterling Hayden also was in The Godfather, which came later.
He hadn't made a movie in 5 years. And Kubrick actually convinced him to come out of retirement for this. Slim Pickens, within one of the most memorable scenes in movie history of him riding the A-bomb down to the ground.
Yeehaw. And
James Earl Jones.
Yep.
Which I believe this was James Earl Jones' first movie.
Is it really?
I believe it is.
I did not know.
Did you
and he done Broadway before that though?
I'm
yes.
sure.
Oh yeah.
He's a
and that's
actor.
why Stanley Kubrick hired him, is he saw him in I want to say King Lear. I might be wrong. But did you know the budget for this? Peter Sellers was paid $1 million for this movie, which was actually 55% of the budget.
And he had to play X amount of characters.
Yeah, and Kubrick is quoted as saying, "I get 3 for the price of 6." That was one of his famous quips.
That's a good line.
That's another thing. Stanley Kubrick was when he is notorious for just being straight-faced, having no sense of anything when he's shooting these movies. This movie, Peter Sellers actually had him laughing so hard on takes because Peter Sellers, like Bill Murray, improvised almost all of his lines. Yep. Most of his stuff wasn't written, but he had Stanley Kubrick on the ground, like laughing so hard he couldn't breathe.
Does it talk about the? So he plays 4 characters. Is it 3 or 4?
It's 3.
Right. I can't remember.
He played the French soldier with Sterling Hayden.
Yeah, that's Mandrake.
Well, he was French, right?
I don't think he's French.
Okay, maybe not.
It's
but
Mandrake.
He played Dr. Strangelove.
Yeah.
And who's the third character? Because I'm blanking. Oh my God, it's one of my favorite movies, and you're calling me up.
George C. Scott is so funny in that.
Yeah. Did you know George C. Scott was notoriously hard to work with? Mm-hmm. But do you know how he actually became, how Stanley Kubrick got him in line?
Is it chess?
Beat his ass in chess. Because Stanley Kubrick was a master chess player.
Yeah, and George C. Scott was no slouch.
No, he wasn't. And
he was known for his prowess of the chessboard.
Yeah, and Stanley Kubrick wiped the floor with him.
Wiped the floor with him. Yeah,
by the way, it's really funny.
He would play in New York where they do the Bobby Fischer, and that's where he'd hustle for money.
Yeah. Did you all know that they're what the original ending for this movie was?
Mm-mm.
Do you?
No.
So the original ending of this movie was supposed to be a gigantic pie fight between the Russians and the Americans.
They shot it.
Just
stills.
And then Stanley Kubrick decided to get rid of it because it didn't fit with the overall theme of the movie. And there's only been one viewing of the movie with this scene in it, and it was in 1999 at a London theater right after Kubrick's death.
I didn't know the footage still exists.
The footage still exists, and there's a cut of this movie out there with the pie fight in it.
Because The Shining had a different ending, and he cut it out after it came into theaters.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and that footage doesn't exist.
Well, this one does, and I don't know.
Look it up. It's fascinating because there's people that argue that it didn't make it to theater, but apparently it did show in a certain cinemas.
Yeah.
And then he took it back out, and then it went back, and he cut it. So it's her showing up at the office. I know we're getting off topic.
No. I mean,
we could do a whole episode about Kubrick,
and we probably eventually will be when we run out of topics. The only other fact I have about this movie that I thought was fascinating is the war room table. I mean, obviously you can't. This movie's
no
in black.
fighting in the war room, dude.
Yeah, there's no fighting in the war room. It's in black and white, so it's hard to see. Of course, you can't see anything. But the tablecloth on the war room table is actually green because Stanley Kubrick wanted the actors to feel like they were playing poker with the world. I thought that was fascinating.
That's really interesting. Yeah.
In order to get them into their characters, he that's how he wanted it. He wanted it green. I actually lied. The only other fact I have about it is the famous scene where Peter Sellers' character, Dr. Strangelove, is fighting with his own hand. There's 2 facts about that. One, that glove that he has is actually Stanley Kubrick. It's from Stanley Kubrick's personal collection that he used to change lights on set.
That does not shock
Yeah.
me. And if you know anything about Kubrick, this should not be shocking to anyone.
And and Sellers saw him using it one day on set and thought that would be perfect for his character, and that's where that glove came from. And the second thing is that there's actually a medical syndrome that involves the hand. Like, it's not as dramatic as Peter Sellers, but it involves, like, the hand will come up and just slam down, and people have no control over it. It had a long name that I can't remember off the top of my head, but it actually got changed to Strangelove syndrome because of Peter Sellers.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So that was I'm sorry, but you started mentioning Kubrick. I'm like, let's get right into it. My first pick. So Dr. Strangelove and How I Learned to Stop War.
No, that's good.
It's my favorite war. It honestly, when we said we were going to talk about war movies, it was the first one that came up. The other two, the second one I'm going to talk about, I had no problem coming up with. It was right after Strangelove, but I fought with it. There was a few other ones I fought with, but Dr. Strangelove was by far the number one. I wasn't even going to hesitate talking about it.
Okay, who's next? Me or you?
Get it, Joe. You take mine, I'll just cry.
I have 1, 2, 3,
4. Get your woman
on the floor. Gotta get up to get down. Gotta get up to get. We haven't sang in a while. 1, 2, 3.
I'm sure nobody has missed
5, 6.
We could be a barbershop quartet, except we killed Jimmy.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody died. Nobody died. There's not active investigation.
Haley was our best bass.
For some reason, it just popped in my head. Haley singing,
"Oh Man River."
I saw her today, by the way.
Oh.
I'll go ahead and keep with Stanley Kubrick, only I'll keep it short. It's called Paths of Glory. Have either of you gentlemen ever seen it?
No, I did play a video game.
Everybody
called
thought,
Quest of Glory.
everybody would say Full Metal Jacket. I didn't pick Full Metal Jacket. It's an honorable mention. It's a great movie. I enjoy it quite a bit. Well, I enjoy the first half.
Yeah, the first half. I agree with you.
First half. I mean, it's all good.
It's all good, but the second half,
Hold on.
it just
let
seems...
Let me anchor 3/4 of the world. That's poor man's Platoon.
Oh, which is funny. Well, actually, Oliver had written Platoon many, many years before, too, and it took him forever to get it made.
Yeah.
Only probably just not as long as it just took Stanley to get a movie done.
Yeah.
After returning to attack on an enemy position, a general accuses the soldiers of cowardice, and their commanding officer must defend them. It's the only one on here that's from World War I.
What year did it come out?
It came out in 1959. I don't have it on here. It's based on the novel Paths of Glory by Humphrey Cobb. Basically,
you said Cobb.
Yeah, Humphrey Cobb.
Okay, just checking.
Hump a Cobb?
No, I heard something else.
Cod?
Yeah, we'll go with Cod. Moving along.
How much time do we got before we need a commercial break?
I don't know. I was hoping Chad said his.
Anyway, go ahead.
Anyway, it's directed by Stanley Kubrick, written by Stanley Kubrick. I think it's Kubrick's third film, Paths of Glory. You should check it out. It's black and white. It stars Kirk Douglas. Now, how did Stanley Kubrick make another little war film? Not Full Metal Jacket. You guys remember that one? It had Kirk Douglas in it too? It's called Spartacus.
Yep.
See what I mean about Kubrick made a lot of war movies?
Yeah, Dalton Trumbo.
He would almost make Napoleon several times and never actually finished it.
See,
That was his dream project,
It was
right?
really one of his dream projects and never actually did it.
Who did
I'm
he,
Spartacus, by the way.
So he never actually shot anything, because I was kind of curious as to who he cast as Napoleon.
Dennis Hopper. He done it once. He did it once for Irv Allen. Why wouldn't he do it again?
Kirk. I'm sorry. Kubrick talked to many different people over a lot of years about different roles. For example, Eyes Wide Shut, he actually had a meeting with Steve Martin once, and they played chess.
Huh. Steve Martin was going to be Tom Cruise?
I don't know he's going to be Tom Cruise, but that was the movie they talked about. The AI, which he'd worked on with Spielberg, he always wanted Spielberg to direct it, and Spielberg always said that he should direct it as they went back for years and years and years and years back and forth.
I'm still just trying to picture Steve Martin as Tom Cruise.
I'm giving you an example of what could have happened. I don't know that Tom Cruise is right for that role either.
I know we're talking about work, but Novocaine was good.
We're back, and we have the combination to the air shield. Sorry about that, folks. We had a little bit of a glitch.
We fixed
the glitch. Moving right along, check out Paths of Glory. No, I can't imagine Steve Martin as Tom Cruise.
No.
But Past the Glory, once I said you should do it as a double feature with Yellow, which was directed by Robert Zemeckis, starring Kirk Douglas as well. Check it out. It was a Tales from the Crypt. It was longer. It has Dan Aykroyd in it. It has Kirk Douglas's other son. I can't remember what his name is. Something
Charlie
Douglas.
Sheen.
What in the hell is that laptop doing?
What do you mean?
It sounds like it's powering up to take off.
Yeah. Well, I realized there actually wasn't any power to it. It was just running off battery. I kicked it on over there.
Yeah, you might need to do that.
Yeah, anyway. So check it out. Double feature. Past the Glory, Yellow. Who's up next?
James.
It's me. I'm going to have to go with the one, and Joe and Chad probably saw this coming. I got to go with Deer Hunter.
I thought so. I've got another obscure one that I thought you might have taken.
And honestly, I was going to bring up Deer Hunter, but I figured one of you two were going to do it. So.
Deer Hunter
depresses me, man. That movie, 40 years on, is depressing
That's why
as hell.
I had to pick it.
It
because
really is.
there's very little war in this picture, but there is no doubt that this movie is about soldiers.
Oh God, it's hurtful.
He don't. How's his name pronounced? Cimino?
Michael Cimino.
Cimino, thank you.
Right?
I think so.
It's not Cimino, it's Cimino.
He had only
he passed
made
away a couple years ago.
one film before this, which was Thunderbolt and Lightfoot.
Okay.
But this is arguably kind of the godfather of war movies. It is very character driven. Mm-hmm. It is in time slow.
And it has a lot of people from The Godfather in it.
Well, there's a couple funny stories about that. De Niro was not who the studio wanted. They told him he had to have somebody big if he wanted money for it, because it was considered a huge risk. Because it covered Vietnam.
They thought that was a huge risk. Wait till they do Heaven's Gate. That's an insider joke for you people that are huge Michael Cimino fans.
Do you know who the studio wanted him to get?
Robert Redford.
Roy Schneider.
Really?
And they had a contract with him, which is how he got forced to do Jaws
2?
Because he backed out of this movie. Robert De Niro agreed to do it, but here's the funny part about it. It's considered a war movie.
Yeah.
The original script had nothing to do with war. It was based on an unproduced play about a gambler with an obsession with Russian roulette. And they bought that unproduced play and they reworked it because what happens, I guess, I have not read the unproduced play, but it's about, he realizes somebody he knows is involved in it and the ending is about the same. And they wanted to look at what does that actually look like. And the people who made this movie say, odds are none of the Russian roulette stuff was actually happening in POW camps, so none of that stuff's real. And that was one of the most controversial things that got put in the movie. But it's funny because that was the only thing that survived, arguably, from kind of the original script.
You know what? I never thought about it being real, so that's how good the movie is. It never occurred to me that Russian roulette wasn't happening. So people say it probably never happened to any POW?
Yeah, I mean, they said because where would that come from? And here's one of the funny parts about it.
And they weren't just playing that in Vietnam on the streets.
I'm bored. What do you want to do today?
Because that's what they're doing in the clubs, right? They're playing Russian roulette.
Well, and Christopher Walken won his Academy Award, Best Supporting for this. But you know,
said it paid for his house.
It's so funny because
the Oscar did.
When they went to cast people, they filmed some of it in Thailand, and they went to cast people, and they couldn't find anybody that would smack an American. And they found this one guy, this is Alter, look it up. They found one guy in Thailand who had a devout hatred of Americans. And that's the person they cast that smacks Robert De Niro. Because the guy that they originally cast would not hit him. Refused. Said, well, no, you can film it from the back and I'll go in front of him. And they were like, no, you've got to hit him. We've got to have a hit on. And they found one guy that had a hatred of Americans and brought him in, and he hit the cast. He did it. So, like I said, it was based on an unproduced play. There was a huge backlash against this at the Oscars because of the Russian roulette stuff and because it was about Vietnam. Some names that people would assume would protest it, Jane Fonda being one of them. But what's really funny about it was Jane Fonda had a little film that was up for an Oscar that year too, Coming Home.
Coming Home, yeah. With Bruce Dern and, yeah.
according to
It's so sad I forgot Angelina Jolie's dad.
Yeah.
John Voight.
John Voight.
According to one of the producers,
I almost said Ray Liotta.
there was orchestrated
worse?
lobbying.
I don't know.
There was orchestrated lobbying against the Deer Hunter, and it was actually led by Warren Beatty.
Of course it was.
Because Heaven Can Wait was also up for nominations. And Beatty admitted to using ex-girlfriends, including Julie Christie, who served on the Berlin Film Festival where it was screened, and had her walk out during the screening at the Berlin Film Festival to make a statement.
Huh.
All that stuff was going on. When the limos pulled up, a group of Vietnam veterans threw rocks at the producer's limo. There was all of that stuff going on. Of course, it went on to win 5 Academy Awards, I think.
Yeah.
Sparkly edition here. But yeah, the Vietnam Veterans Against the War protested it with signs saying "No Oscars for Racism" because the Vietnamese versions and all that. One sign said "The Deer Hunter's a bloody lie," and threw pamphlets. The screenplay writer Washburn also had his limo his limo was also hit by stones, and there actually were 13 people arrested at the Oscars for protesting.
You know, sticks and stones will break your bones.
De Niro did not attend the ceremony because he was so nervous that violence would break out. He told them if they would let him sit backstage, he would attend. When they said no, you would have to be in the audience, he said, I will just be at home, and he stayed in New York.
Huh.
So that is, but the Deer Hunter itself is basically, and the reason it's about soldiers. It's not
Pittsburgh steel town that's dying,
and it's 3 friends, and there's all the tensions with their families. There's a wedding at the beginning. It starts with a wedding, Godfather-ish there, and then literally the wedding's over. They go deer hunting. Deer gets shot. And then you pop into Vietnam, and they're prisoners of war. But really, the part of the film that feels the longest is when they're back, and then when he goes back to find the missing one, which is his Walken's character.
Yeah.
When De Niro's character goes
it's
back.
It's a bleak movie.
It is. It's very bleak. It's very hard to watch. The most painful, visceral scene, and I can watch it 1,000 times, and I know it's not real. But my mind always makes it even worse than it's filmed, is when he falls in the river and he breaks his leg. And I can watch that scene and it flashes very quickly to what he's done to his leg. But it's always 10 times worse in my head. Mm-hmm. And I jerk every time it happens. And I've seen it several times. It is, again, I said I had a hard time. This is one of the few war films I have watched a couple times.
Are we going to move on?
But it's, like Joe said, it's bleak. But
it is bleak.
If you've never seen The Deer Hunter, you do need to watch The Deer Hunter.
Yes.
If you're a film, if you love movies and film, yes. If you're not if you just want me to recommend something to have a good time, no.
Oh, it is not a good time. But Meryl Streep is in it as well, so there you go.
So she does a whole Mamma Mia thing.
Yeah, the musical number in the middle.
The musical numbers
really
with the rats
took me out of it for a second. But it's probably also a film that in some ways, as much as it was protested, also brought to the forefront some of the ideas of mental health and what was going on with some of these veterans. I know some Vietnam veterans who say, it's great on that end, but it's not great on the war end. So I'll talk more about that later.
Yay, he's going to talk more. Did you hear that, Chad?
Oh, no, please.
He's back from Mississippi to talk more.
Give me more of the background about the third set string director who moved a doll.
You don't even know what you're saying. You don't even know what you're saying. Chad, get us out of the funk.
All right, I'm going to do this one before
We got the funk.
I'm going to do this one before you all steal it. I'm going to name the cast. Dennis Leary, Danny Glover, Ray Liotta.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, I'm not talking about Operation Dumbo Drop.
Is that a war movie?
It's soldiers. They're in Vietnam. They're transporting elephants.
Is that during Vietnam?
Yeah,
I don't think I've ever actually seen it.
It's during Vietnam.
Oh, okay.
We're not talking about Operation Dumbo Drop. I just wanted to hear Joe go, oh, God.
Oh, my God.
Okay, no, here's, I'm going to name a couple of the characters' names and see if you all can get it. Oddball, Crap Game. Nope. All right, I'm just going to start naming the actors. Don Rickles.
Yes.
Telly Savalas.
Oh, I know.
Oh,
Carol
yeah.
O'Connor.
Yeah, I know this one.
Clint Eastwood. Kelly's Heroes.
Yes.
This is a personal favorite of mine.
Why? You know, it's
considered bad.
Yeah, it's not a good movie.
No, but
that's where John Landis.
Yes, he plays. John Landis was a production assistant, but he also played Sister Rosa Stigmata.
Do you know anything about all that? That's where he actually came up with the idea for. Do you know?
No, go.
American Werewolf in London, because they shot that behind the Iron Curtain.
Yeah, they filmed it in Yugoslavia.
He had to get a passport. He was 17 or 18. That's how he ended up meeting Rickles and all those people. Also, that's how we got
Harry Dean Stanton,
in
Carol O'Connor.
Animal House. Donald Sutherland.
Yeah, I was going. He plays oddball.
Yeah, they all thought he was Rickles said later is an annoying little asshole.
Yeah,
but I mean, obviously,
well,
built
that's
some
Rickles.
Sort of, yes, I know, but that's where he experienced actually seeing gypsies for the first time. He was a young man, and it stuck with him. He goes, well, what if there was and that's where he wrote American Werewolf in London. He was really young. It wasn't produced for another decade. Yeah,
because it takes place in World War II, and it was all shot in Yugoslavia.
And you're right, it's not considered a classic. It's remembered fondly, but it's not.
Yeah, it's not considered a classic, nor should it be. But again, it's one of my personal favorites. I guess you could consider this my B movie that I like. It also starred, I said Carol O'Connor, Donald Sutherland, Harry Dean Stanton. It was directed by, oh God, I can't read my handwriting, Brian G. Hutton. He directed Night Watch, X, Y, and Z, and The Pad and How to Use It. The Pad is referring to an apartment. It was...
Is it? Because I'm almost more interested in the other one.
No, it's about a bachelor who is hanging out in his apartment and how to get ladies.
No, I get that.
Yeah.
I like my other version.
Yeah, I know. And that's why I figured.
Yeah, how am I supposed to use this, Chad?
I figured.
There's another one. We've just made a threequel.
Yeah, those were just 3 movies of note other than Kelly's Hero. So I figured I better explain what The Pad is. It was written by Troy Kennedy Martin. Do either one of you know who that man is? He wrote The Italian Job and the better movie, Red Heat.
Wait, the original Italian Job or the new?
Both.
Oh, I did not know that.
He probably wrote the original and got credit after arbitration.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Fix that in post.
If you know how the screenwriter credit thing works with arbitration.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I'm not taking anything away from
that, by the way, is another entire story with the deer hunter, but I won't go back into it.
But but let's talk.
It's depressing.
But what is Kelly's Hero? It's about a group.
It is depressing.
It's about a group of soldiers who are going behind enemy lines to steal Nazi gold.
3 Kings. What?
Yeah, 3 Kings. It was the original 3 Kings.
That's it.
Yeah. Did you know it was actually Kelly's Heroes was actually based on a true incident?
No, but it was
it was based on a true incident, and the actual heist was considered the biggest of all time, based on the 1960s Guinness Book of World Records. So 20 minutes, and this is probably why it was. It's not really considered a classic. MGM and all their wise glory, of course, when a studio gets involved in a movie, they cut 20 minutes out of the movie.
Yeah.
And a lot of that told the background stories of the characters. There was a lot of dramatic background, especially of the character Oddball by Donald Sutherland, because in the movie he's kind of just this wacky, kooky guy who's there for, comedic effect. But there was actually a whole story told about him, about why he is, his interaction with soldiers. There was also a lot of interactions with soldiers who were on the lines, and them and dealing with the real dramatic effect of war. MGM cut it basically to make it a zany heist movie. Let me turn the page here.
Turn the page.
Did you know? So this was Eastwood at the height of his movie fame too, and this was kind of a movie that didn't seem to fit in his repertoire at the time. He had just finished. I believe he had just done the spaghetti westerns with. Help me out here.
Sergio Leone.
That guy. But he signed on to this movie because of one reason. It was actually originally supposed to be directed by Don Siegel.
Which would explain why he would sign on to it.
Yeah, and Don Siegel was also he directed the Dirty Harry movies, a couple other movies with Clint Eastwood. So they were very close friends. I believe you can hear a story about that in our.
I'm sure you can. Well, Unforgiven, which is probably Eastwood's best directed film, would probably make. I don't know. He's got a few good ones, but I think Unforgiven's probably the one that'll go down. What do you think?
Yeah.
It's dedicated to Don and Sergio.
Right.
Which would be Don Siegel and Sergio Leone.
Yeah. But they were supposed to do this, but Don Siegel got caught up in another movie in the editing process. So that's why it got dropped to this relatively unknown man, Brian G. Hutton, who had, he does not have a lot of movies on his career. Kelly Heroes is by far his best movie.
Yeah.
So if that tells you anything. But it is a personal favorite for me. Every time I watch it, I chuckle, mainly because of Don Rickles.
It's got a great cast.
It's got an amazing... And the chemistry...
It's like an Ocean's movie. Yeah, they're not great, but it's hard not to enjoy them with all the people.
Right.
And think of all the people.
But that's Kelly's Heroes. If you haven't seen it, if you just want to watch a good movie, a popcorn movie that has a lot of great characters and a lot of great lines, it's worth watching. Does it really tell a hardcore war movie? No. It's just a bunch of people on a tank trying to go steal some Nazi gold.
All right, that leads me to me.
Go.
And we'll just segue from one Clint Eastwood to the next.
I totally didn't sell Kelly's Heroes at all, did I?
That's okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to sell you on this next one.
Clint Eastwood,
yes.
war movie.
Yes. You know what it is?
Heartbreak Ridge.
No.
I knew it was.
That's the one he did when he had throat cancer, right?
This movie was made as a companion to Flags of Our Fathers, but it is by far the more superior of the film.
Yeah.
Letters from Iwo Jima is a superior film to Flags of Our Fathers. Flags of Our Fathers I looked it up. It's 3, if not 4 times the budget.
Mm-hmm.
More time to shoot. They shot Letters from Iwo Jima. It's 20 or 30 days. Ridiculous.
Didn't they shoot it simultaneously?
They shot it right after, back to back. It's in Japanese. Clint Eastwood, to my knowledge, doesn't speak it fluently.
Right.
And can't imagine him doing it.
Right.
It sounds ridiculous. The story of the Battle of Iwo Jima between the United States and Imperial Japan during World War II is told from the perspective of the Japanese who fought it in the caves. That's the story. Have you guys seen it?
I have actually not seen it.
I've got it on DVD.
It's better.
I'm surprised. I'm going to be honest with you. Out of all the war movies, I'm surprised this is the one you're bringing up.
Oh, I have a bunch.
I know you do.
But I just thought I'd segue from that to that.
Yeah.
I can't explain it. It stars Ken Watanabe.
Yeah.
But when I watched it, and I really think
Which, by the way, if you don't know who Ken Watanabe is, it Watanabe?
Ken Watanabe.
Watanabe. I thought.
Is it Watanabe?
I think, but I could be wrong. But he was a race. He was the
Zerby.
For our previous episodes.
Feel bad about that still.
That's okay.
Well, Ra's al Ghul in the original Batman.
Yeah,
Begins.
He's also on Godzilla. He's in
a bunch of stuff.
He's actually,
the Last Samurai.
I forgot that he's in the Leonardo DiCaprio Inception. He's in Inception.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Inception.
Great actor. The reason why I want you to watch it.
Yeah.
And James, I don't know if you agree. I don't know how, as an American, I end up, if I watch those two movies back to back, you end up feeling so much worse for the Japanese.
Well, there's an entire...
Although they did lost.
Yeah.
But you end up feeling so much worse for the Japanese. I shouldn't.
Well, no, and there's other films that have tried to do that before. Is it Tora?
They do not succeed to me.
No. They do not succeed. But it's... That's the thing when you study war and you study the culture and you study the impact of it. I mean, nobody goes into war thinking they're the bad guy.
No.
This is not a Bond film where it's like, no, I'm doing this to rule the world.
Blowfield is non-existent.
Yeah.
No, I agree. It was based on a book by, and I'm going to butcher this, and I'm so sorry to our Japanese fluent listeners and watchers, Tadamichi Kiribayashi and Tsukio Yoshido. And It was shot, like I said. I don't know that they ever had it planned. Somehow, some way, this came upon when they were. And by the way, he was writing an Oscar. I was trying to figure out, well, how did he get all this movie? Because how did he get all this money to do all this? Because Flags of Our Fathers was not a hit. Mm-hmm. It didn't make its money back. But he just won an Oscar 2 years ago, 2 years before that, for $1 Million Baby.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So he was riding high with a big success, an Oscar. He's Clint Eastwood. I'm sure he gets to do mostly what he wants. I hope so. And you do just this small little companion piece for this film that is exponentially better. And I guess sounds like I'm shitting on Flags of Our Fathers. I don't mean to be. No, it's not a bad movie, and it's basically about the raising of the flag and how that thing you see is bullshit.
Yeah,
that was all staged after the battle.
Well, and we could do an entire episode about this because that's also true for.
We could do a whole episode. We need to do a whole 2-parter about movies and bullshit of the true stories.
Because but so many of those photos were staged. The freeing of the people from concentration camps. If you ever get a chance, visit the Candles Museum in Terre Haute, Indiana. Because one of the founders of that, Eva Kor, talks about she was at that camp, and they were originally, quote unquote, somewhat released by the Russian army. But when the Americans and the British got there, they made them pose walking out the gates and all that stuff.
Right. Yeah.
And so many of what we think of as historical was posed.
You know they're going to die.
Mm-hmm.
You know the Japanese culture of not giving up. Of being left on that island to die.
Yeah.
They were left there to fight to the death.
Mm-hmm.
It is depressing as hell, I know, but it's also beautifully shot. It looks better than Flags of Our Fathers.
Do you... And now it's been a while since I've seen Letters from Iwo Jima. Do you think it's more depressing than Deer Hunter?
No. I had a hard time with. In defense of the Deer Hunter, I have seen the Deer Hunter. I have seen both movies, but I have seen the Deer Hunter more recently than I have Flags of
because to me, Deer Hunter is tragedy for 3 people. You've got an army left behind.
It's tragic. Oh, but all those people connect to other people.
I was going to say, the Deer
Hunter is depressing from the get-go in that shitty steel town where everybody's out of work.
God, it's effectively made.
Yeah, and Deer Hunter is one of those movies where I actually, when I know I'm going to watch it, I already have anxiety about hitting play.
I just... Oh,
no. I own it.
There's a scene where they throw the grenade... I don't want to get back to the... Deer Hunter.
No. But I just wonder because I think that's really interesting.
I wanted to pull the letters. Letters from. I don't know that people talk about it as much, and I think it's one of Eastwood's better films.
Yeah. No, I
really should watch it, Chad.
Okay, I will.
I think I've got it on DVD. I'm pretty sure.
So next up is James.
One of my. It's actually one of my.
This is mine. Stop stealing my purple drink.
I thought it looked less than yours.
You already drank some of my purple drink.
I did. I took a sip of it because I thought it was mine. Look at our audacity where you just yelled.
That sucks a whole bag of dicks.
It really does.
It's not overly good.
Why didn't you get the sugar in it? And it's coming from a guy that doesn't try to drink a lot of sugar.
Sorry, Joe said we should move this along. And he's going on a tangent about...
I just think...
James took a while to talk about a movie relevant to what we were talking about. But
relevant to today's times with these rat-infested waters in this steel town that we live in.
Let's go on a rant about Fanta. Son of bitches.
I don't have any Fanta.
Tropical Punch Fanta's pretty good.
I don't know if I've ever had it.
Oh, is there a Tropical Punch Fanta?
There is a Tropical Punch Fanta.
Is that like Tahitian treat?
Yeah.
Oh my God, Eagle River.
Anyway, can we get back to war?
Yes.
What is it good for?
Absolutely nothing.
Say it again. Oh.
Anyway. No, my second movie is based on a true story, 1959 fiction book.
Have you only talked once?
Jesus, I know. I was thinking the same thing. Ash, quit that. The cat is now... I told you he wouldn't do it, and then he did it. What were you doing?
This film, you'll know it as soon as I say some of the cast. Steve McQueen.
Never heard of it.
James Gardner.
Great Escape.
Richard Attenborough.
Why did you ruin it for me?
James Donald.
Spoiler alert.
Charles Bronson.
He's digging tunnels.
Pleasance. James Coburn.
No Reservoir Dog references out there. He's like Charles Bronson in The Great Escape. He's digging tunnels.
Anyway, it was based on a true story. They fictionalized a lot of it, but if you read the book, which is also called The Great Escape from 1950, it tells the accurate first-person story. They obviously fictionalized a lot of it, but it was about a group of British officers,
Yes.
British Commonwealth prisoners of war, and German escaping from Stalag Luft 3.
Stalag 17, got it. Billy Wilder.
In Zagan, Poland.
That doesn't exist.
By the way, spoilers, because we're going to ruin some stuff for this movie. Do you think that's like the worst title of a movie ever?
The Great Escape?
Yeah, because it really wasn't.
Not all of them escape.
It wasn't a great escape.
No, it doesn't. I mean,
James Gardner escapes.
Yeah.
Who else? Steve McQueen ends up right back in prison. Half of them end up dead.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, it wasn't a great escape. It was a great escape for James Gardner.
James Gardner and who else? I almost said James Cromwell. James. I know. I need to stop fucking doing that under the microphone.
James Donald.
No, it's not James Donald. No. James Coburn.
James Doohan.
Doesn't James Coburn? Isn't he in it? Doesn't he escape?
James Coburn. Yeah.
He gets away on the boat.
Yeah. Because there's the bike, there's the boat, there's all these ways. But the reason
all these ways so they can get to Louisville to go to the Great Escape.
The reason I picked that, by the way, they would sponsor us.
Great Escape. Go to Louisville. You can as long as they pay us money.
The one reason that this is always in my head when I think of war movies is the theme. The music is almost another character for this.
It has been made fun of many times. I mean, Naked Gun 33 1/3 has it as they're trying to break out of prison.
Mr. B, the gentleman rhymer, uses it to lampoon soccer. Da 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 da, and the song becomes "Let's get
is he
this
the guy with the
over
beard?
And done with." Yes, and
I have no idea who.
It's James Thomas, man.
Yeah, I know.
Dr. James Thomas.
But anyway,
he's like Dr. Dre. Ed Lover can have all the donuts he wants.
Call back.
It was previously made into a radio play by the Philco Television Playhouse for NBC.
Was it called The Great Escape then, too?
Yes.
Just don't understand it.
But what would you going to say? Would you rather go see The Great Escape, or would you rather go see, maybe some of them get it?
Okay, guess which three make it, Chad?
The not well thought out escape. That's the title of this episode, by the way.
And I'll text you next week, and it'll be, I don't remember. Would you turn off your Apple Watch?
Why is your Apple Watch going off?
How do you have an Apple Watch? What kind of money? He's got money to lay around in his car for kids to steal it.
It was a gift.
Now he's got an Apple. From whom?
A gift.
Your new lover? Are they Latin?
That's not from Carl. Ooh. Anyway,
I never met a Latin lover named Carl.
Leonard Maltin said that this had a huge international cast, but Steve McQueen was obviously the standout. It did cement him as being Steve McQueen as we know him today.
Who was he before that? Drew McWeeny. Who's an actual writer, by the way.
Virgil Hiltz is Steve McQueen's character, who was nicknamed the Cooler King, was actually based on 3 different pilots in the real story, which were David M. Jones, John Dortch Lewis, and William Ash. So they are all based on real people, but they clammed them together.
Clammed them?
But The Great Escape, if you've never seen it, is they're trying to escape, and they're prisoners of war, and
it's pretty much if you've ever watched Hogan's Heroes.
It is what Hogan Hero and lampoons, right?
That hurt my spleen.
Which part?
Hogan's Heroes to The Great Escape. Yep.
One of the funny...
the only thing missing from The Great Escape? Richard Dawson.
And Stalag 17.
By the way, just useless trivia. Steve McQueen wanted to do all his own motorcycle stunts, and the insurance company for the studio went, no, you won't. So he got his friend Bud Elkins to do it. And so all the jumps and everything that you see is Bud Elkins in Steve McQueen's costume doing the jumps and stuff. If you've never seen The Great Escape, you should. It is a little bit more lighthearted, even though they're prisoners of war, than The Deer Hunter. And some of them do make it.
It's not.
No, not some.
It's not as dark as Hogan's Heroes.
Right.
God. You know what, Joe? You know what you know? Hey, what does he know, Joe? Or Chad? What does Joe know, Chad?
Nothing! He knows nothing! Oh Holy shit! I was watching an episode of it. It's funny that you bring it
Jon
up.
Snowing it over there.
I haven't seen it in years, and it was on MeTV or something. I don't remember. It was 3 weeks ago. I was watching. I was like, I can't believe this shit was on TV.
I know. It is the weirdest show, but God, it's entertaining.
By the way, just FYI, the one group cut out from the film that play a major role in the book, Canadians.
Aw, man.
They cut out the Royal Canadian Air Force, which was a major part in the
No,
true
so
story.
did we in history.
So
You could or you Canuck.
I'm good. So that's
You
my second
done?
one. Yeah.
Is Chad ready to go?
Yeah.
I don't know what my third one's going to be.
All right. So this
What?
again is we don't have to spend a lot of time on this unless you all have stuff to talk about. But this is a curse. One of my personal favorites again.
Ash, put down the gun.
Hey James, watch what I'm getting ready to do. The star of this movie. This was his only good movie ever.
Oh my god, this is supposed to piss me off. I don't know how yet, but it's supposed
Gregory Peck. It's the only good movie.
That's Spock's grandfather, right?
Yep.
Spock's grandfather.
Only good movie he's ever been in.
to. What? Spock's grandfather.
The guy that plays Spock in the new season of Discovery is Ethan Peck.
Is it really? Is that his grandson?
I think it's his grandson.
Yeah, so his grandson was way more talented than his grandfather.
So his grandson did a
Oh
good
my
show.
god.
I am, of course, talking about The Guns of Navarone.
Oh, Jesus. Which is also another Tarantino line. I'm TNT. I'm the Guns of Navarone. My fingers touch brains. In fact, why am I back here on brain detail?
Oh, Guns of Navarone. It's a fun movie. Do you have a problem with The Guns of Navarone?
It's not a very good movie.
Oh, screw you. It's good. It stars Gregory Peck, David Nivens.
It's not as good as Force 10 for Navarone.
Oh, you bastard. It was
right?
Also,
Is that the one with Harrison Ford?
Yeah. Gregory Peck, David Nivens, Anthony Quinn, Richard Harris, and Stanley Baker.
What is with you and these all-star casts?
They're just entertaining. And then, when I watched Guns of Navarone when I was a kid, I didn't know who any of these people were. I didn't know they were all big names, but I enjoyed the movie.
Yeah.
So it's directed by J. Lee Thompson, who this is probably his best movie. He had a long, extensive career with Cannon.
Anyway, you were saying now of the Guns of Navarone, and so he directed Firewalker?
Yeah,
What?
J. Lee Thompson has a lot to do with Cannon. King Solomon's Mine, Firewalker. He had done a lot of movies with Charles Bronson. A lot, even prior to Cannon. He directed Death Wish 4, 10 to Midnight.
Still death wishing.
Yeah. the White Buffalo, and St. Ives. Those are just a few highlights. The Guns of Navarone was also written by Carl Foreman. Name sound familiar to you?
No.
Wrote High Noon.
Oh.
The Bridge on the River Kwai, which was also a close one that I was going to bring up, but I slightly like Guns of Navarone a little more than that, even though I know the Bridge on the River Kwai is actually considered a classic.
Bridge of River Kwai is a classic where the Guns of Navarone isn't, but I couldn't put it on my list because I never put it in to enjoy it.
Yeah. It's a rough watch. Which also
I would prefer to watch Lawrence of Arabia if you're going to talk about... Anyway,
Yeah. But he also wrote The Key, and he wrote and directed a movie called The Victory. But yeah, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the Guns of Navarone. It was, I think by most standards, it's just considered a, kind of like a camp. It was considered like the action movie of the summer when it came out, when it did. But again, it was one of those movies that I sat down when I was a kid and watched. And my father was big into war movies, but his favorite movie was The Green Berets, which is terrible.
But it has
The Green Berets, by the way.
Sulu in it.
I mentioned this earlier, that talking about Vietnam vets. So I had the opportunity to work with a Vietnam vet and to do films for a group of students several years ago now. And he took students abroad during the summer to Vietnam, and he said, we'll do a series of Vietnam films. And one of the films that's going to be one of my honorable mentions was one of them. But I brought up, I'm like, well, I've got The Green Beret on DVD, and he goes, never, ever mention that to me again. Because it was a pro-war kind of propaganda film.
It really was.
Yeah.
And a lot of veterans aren't exactly fond of that film.
And neither am I. And that was like my dad's favorite movie, and I had to watch it over again. But this is one movie that we actually both enjoyed, The Guns of Navarone. So yeah, it just has a personal preference, a personal tie to me, and I will watch it to this day and sit down. If it's on TV, I will sit down and watch it.
I'm having a hard time with my third one. There's about 4 or 5 I could do.
I am too.
But I'm going to pull an obscure. I am actually pulling more obscure than you all today.
I know it's kind of a reverse.
This is even more.
This is very uncomfortable for me, by the way.
This one is directed by Keith Gordon. Really, Ash? You start when I start talking. Do you guys know who Keith Gordon is?
The name sounds familiar.
He was an actor. He started out as an actor. He is in Dressed to Kill. He's the kid. He's the kid in Christine.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, he directed several episodes of Dexter, if I'm not mistaken.
He directed several episodes of Dexter. Has anybody ever seen A Midnight Clear?
Never heard of it.
A Midnight Clear stars Gary Sinise and Ethan Hawke. James, you might as well sit down. He already stopped by the time you got over there. Sorry, our cat is scratching on the post, even though he said he wouldn't. It's based on a novel by William Wharton. A Midnight Clear is set in the Adrian's Forest in December of 1944. A group of American GIs, all of whom have been together a bit too long, cling to the vestiges of their peacetime interests to remain sane. None are brilliant soldiers, though Will Not, Ethan Hawke, is the one who exhibits the strongest leadership qualities. Billed at a chateau, the soldiers began hearing strange noises emanating from a graveyard, the handiwork of a group of mischievous German soldiers. The two enemy camps draw closer to one another as Christmas approaches, due in great part to the influence of a GI Vince's mother, Wilkins, who's played by Gary Sinise. A sudden impulsive hostile act results in the wholesale and unnecessary slaughter of the German soldiers. Through the exteriors are convincingly minute European, the film was actually lensed in Utah. It's a dark film. He has 2 movies that basically take place during World War II, Keith Gordon. The other one I'd recommend stars Nick Nolte, and it's based on a novel by Kurt Vonnegut called Mother Night.
Yeah.
If you ever get a chance to watch it, but it's not about soldiers.
Mm-hmm.
And Mother Night may be slightly better. This opens up with Gary Sinise just screaming in the woods, and they're all going crazy. I had never even heard of the movie, and it was a small independent film, and I watched it probably when it came out in 92, but I didn't see it then. I probably watched it a little later, about 17 or 18, 94, 95. And it had an impact on me. I'd never seen anything quite like it.
I never heard of it.
A Midnight Clear. I don't know that you can get a copy of it. I didn't look. I haven't had a chance to look. Why are you smiling? You have a look on your face like...
No, while you were talking, I was going to look it up on my fancy-dancy Amazon
app. So Keith
app.
Gordon directed 2 movies. The one I want to mention is A Midnight Clear because I actually thought James might know about it.
Now, Mother Night stars
Nick Nolte.
Yeah, I was going to say, because
it's a little bit bigger of a film. It's based on a novel by Kurt Vonnegut. I'm almost positive. Yeah.
Yes.
And what it's about, and I'll do them both because one was about soldiers, and that's what I was going back and forth on. The other one is about he's giving secrets to the Allied forces, but he's in Germany as a propagandist.
Yep.
And he's dealing with, it goes back and forth in time, Chad.
Yeah. By the way, it is hard to find a copy of that.
Yeah, I can imagine. It was a small movie, and I don't know that a lot of people have seen it.
Yeah. I know I haven't.
But it's going back and forth in time of him remembering that. And did he help? And then Germans telling him later, as many secrets as you gave, the propaganda you did much more for Germany than any secrets you ever gave away.
Wow.
Yeah, Kurt Vonnegut. So, as a double feature, check out Keith Gordon's both, who went on to direct a lot of episodes of Dexter and a lot of other, several episodes of Dexter. I'm trying to think, there's one more movie I like.
He actually has a cameo in Dexter at one point in one of the episodes that he directed.
Check them out as a double feature. Midnight Clear and Mother Night.
All right, so for my third one, should I go obscure and educational, or should I go
fun?
A little bit more fun. Okay, Joe. Let's say you're a director. Let's say you're Robert Burgess Aldrich, and you have directed such films as Kiss Me Deadly, The Big Knife, Autumn Leaves, Whatever Happened to Baby Jane.
I've seen Big Kiss Me Deadly and Whatever Happened to Baby Jane.
Hush Hush Sweet Charlotte.
I've seen that one too.
The original Flight of the Phoenix.
Horror. I've seen the original.
I've seen Flight of the Navigator.
I've seen the original Flight. Actually, the original Flight of the Phoenix is a damn good movie.
What would you follow the Flight of the Phoenix up with?
Alien 6.
No, you've made a huge mistake. What you would obviously do is you would get together Lee Marvin, Ernest Borgnine, Charles Bronson, Jim Brown, John Cassavetes, Robert Ryan, Telly Savalas.
You guys have hit
Robert
every
Webber,
big...
and Donald Sutherland.
Between the two of you, have hit all the big cast war movies.
Would you have liked me to talk about Operation Dumbo Drop?
I'm just pointing it out. I'm usually the one who has the problem.
Yeah, no, you do.
My
You're
father
the one.
loved The Dirty Dozen, which is what I'm talking about.
Well, it's a fun movie.
I
always liked The Great Escape as a kid, and my father didn't. And I think the reason my father didn't is because people don't make it out. And I know what you're getting ready to say. People don't make it out in The Dirty Dozen either.
No.
But they're all criminals and terrible people. And so it's okay that they don't make it out. And I think that's the way my father justified it. It is based on a novel, and it was actually based on a real-life group that was not The Dirty Dozen. Do you want to know the name of the real group?
I've heard this before. You may have been the one who told me.
Do you want to know?
Yeah, tell me, because I don't know.
It was the Filthy 13. That's all they changed. They dropped one guy. This
went
was
from filthy to slightly dirty.
This
they
is,
got out never mind.
the American Film Institute actually ranked this as number 65 on the most thrilling top 100 thrilling films.
I almost brought it up, but honestly, I didn't think Jane. I thought you would have been the one to bring up The Dirty Dozen.
I don't have an attachment to any of those movies you brought up. I've seen them all and don't have an attachment to any of them.
Well, see, Dirty Dozen. Man, Dirty Dozen's amazing.
The Dirty Dozen.
It's fun, but I don't have that.
Well, and the Dirty Dozen to me is the counterpoint to The Great Escape, and I think that's why it made my list. I did have one, and I'll use it as honorable mention instead. But basically, The Dirty Dozen, and it's funny because Charles Bronson pops up in so many of these films. I think he's my hidden war guy.
He's digging tunnels. If Reservoir Dogs has taught me anything.
But basically,
that's about sex.
The spoilers here, I guess. The only two people that survive are Lee Marvin and Charles Bronson. Because, and effectively, more of them would have survived, except Telly Savalas' character, if I'm remembering correctly, wigs out.
It's been a long time since I've seen it.
And so basically, the background, if you've never seen The Dirty Dozen, is they're all pretty much on death row. And
the original Suicide Squad.
Yeah, the Allied forces need somebody to get into this French chateau and kill a bunch of Nazis that are hiding there before D-Day can happen. And they send these people to do it because nobody cares if they live or die. They're going to die anyway. And basically, the ruling is kill as many people as you can, and then if you happen to get away over there,
and let Jeebus sort them out.
That's not on us. Don't come back to America. But if you kill everybody over there, well, and so, they're horrible soldiers. They're everything else. This film has been, much like Great Escape, has been lampooned 1,000 different times.
And ripped off.
There was a all African American version.
Suicide Squad.
There was an all African American version called The Black Brigade, which starred Richard Pryor and maybe Richard Roundtree. That it was released under 3 different names. The only one I'll say is The Black Brigade. I do have a DVD copy of it. But so I mean, again, the plot line is so easy. It was a huge success though. It cost $5 million to make with that huge cast. Made $45 million back in just the U.S. alone.
That's some good shekels.
But yeah, so I mean, also like I said, loosely based on a true story, even more loosely than The Great Escape, but
and probably even more loosely than Kelly's Heroes.
But the original slogan was train them, excite them, arm them, then turn them loose on the Nazis. That was when
they said when I turned 16.
But yeah. So that's The Dirty Dozen.
Except for train and excite.
If you've never seen The Dirty Dozen, I mean the talent.
You should see The Dirty Dozen.
The talent that went into it. That director. By the way, do you know what his most popular follow-up he made after The Dirty Dozen is? He directed The Longest Yard.
Oh, I think I should have known that.
So that you look at his gestalt of his films.
That's a good career, man. Mm-hmm. That's a very career.
Yeah. Because even when I was looking at it, I'm like, wait. You did Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, and then later on, I went, you know what? I'm going to make a war picture. You made The Dirty Dozen. Fly to the Phoenix, stuff like that, too. But then you went, you know what? Let's make a football picture.
Seriously, with Jimmy Stewart, check out Fly to the Phoenix.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. There is a remake.
I've seen the remake. It's not a bad movie. Just the
it's diminishing returns.
It's got Hugh Laurie.
Yeah.
And Dennis Quaid.
By the way, Robert Burgess Aldrich, for anybody that loves to watch, if you watch the movie Feud, and you want to connect this to that about
I've seen the movie Fled.
What the relationship between
I'm shaking my head.
whatever happened to Baby
audience.
Jane? What is it? The actresses that feuded all the time. They made the movie about them.
But they made a TV series.
Yeah,
Talking about Betty Davis and Joan Crawford.
Thank you.
Yeah, Joan Crawford.
Alfred Molina played Robert Aldrich in that series.
Oh, that's cool.
So there you go. Useless trivia.
All right.
He also played Doc Ock. You're welcome.
So, do you know, I picked 6 movies. Those are not my honorable mentions. Can I give the other 3 that I had a really hard time with?
Go. Because there's one I really wanted to get to, and I'm going to have to do a
From Here to Eternity, which is based on a famous novel.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, From Here to Eternity, Ernest Borgnine,
I know
Frank
who's in it.
Sinatra, Cliff Montgomery Cliffs.
I prefer Guns N' Roses.
Hacksaw Ridge.
Ooh, good one.
A damn good movie.
Yeah.
Say what you want to about Mel Gibson. He's a good director.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He's a good director. And Downfall.
Yeah.
But I moved
Downfall.
German about the last days of Hitler.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's more about Hitler than it was the soldiers. The Hitlers and the Nazis just fought. Downfall is you should watch it, Chad. It's on Netflix. It used to be on Netflix.
It's in German.
It's in German, but oh man, it's tough, but it's enlightening. It's a beautiful movie, even though it's about Nazis. It really is about the Nazis in their last few days and Hitler's last few days. Those are my 3 big ones. I have a whole litany here, of course, of honorable mentions. Yes, go ahead.
Let me do a big honorable mention because I think this one's relevant historically, and I think more people need to see it. There's a Criterion edition that was made. Thank goodness for Martin Scorsese, or this would have been lost in its real form. The Life and Death of Colonel Blimp. Have you ever heard of it?
No, never heard of it.
The Life and Death of Colonel Blimp was made during World
Oh,
War
I did
II.
From Here to Eternity, and you get all excited about Colonel Blimpy.
No, you should get excited about this because Winston Churchill wanted it destroyed.
Oh, really? How come?
Colonel Blimp was a cartoon, a comic strip.
Mm-hmm.
Before World War II, lampooning British military. It was a huge thing. World War II came along. Colonel Blimp's not the name of a character. They just used that title, The Life and Death of Colonel Blimp. What it is about is Major General Candy. And he started as a British soldier. It's a very almost Citizen Kane-esque. It starts with him old. And he's sitting, and he gets, quote-unquote, abducted by younger officers. He's a member of the Home Guard during World War II. And again, this was filmed during World War II. And it flashes back when he gets abducted by the young soldiers, because they all hate him, to him being a young soldier in the Boer War, which was Africa and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. But then it travels through him becoming a career soldier in World War I, being a hero, all of that stuff. And then you build back up. It's considered also a romance film. It was hugely done in Technicolor. It's well known for that. But
he said he's going to make this quick.
Well, you asked what it was about. Deborah Colonel.
Yeah, you still haven't got to it.
Well, I told you it's his entire career. It covers 40 years of military. They had to steal actual military uniforms because everything was being rationed.
Mm-hmm.
Winston Churchill came out against it, said he hated the title because nothing that could make fun of British military, he wanted it released. Originally, it was going to star, big British actor that went on to do Marathon Man.
Laurence Olivier?
Laurence Olivier was going to be, but Winston Churchill...
What would we do without me?
Winston Churchill refused to let him out of military service. Laurence Olivier had been conscripted into the British Navy, and Winston Churchill said no, he can't get a release. He gave him a release for Macbeth, would not give him a release for this film. They cast somebody else who went on to win all sorts of awards for it. But it follows through. At the end of the movie, his home gets bombed, and he said that the only way he would ever be stopped is the day that his home became an ocean, and it ends with the water tower spilling out over his home and things like that. And there's a cistern of water and all that stuff, and he realizes his career.
This is not short.
And
he gives me another and an and a pause.
You need to see this film.
You got a copy?
Yes.
Okay.
It's Criterion. You should get one. Anyway.
Yeah. That's James Thomas' way of saying dick.
100% British film, but it was photographed by a Frenchman. This is a quote by Michael Powell. Written by a Hungarian. Musical score by a German Jew. Director was English. The man who did the costume was a Czech.
Ooh, he almost cussed. Made this a rated R.
No, it was...
Shit the bed.
It was the kind of film that I've always worked on with a mixed crew of every nationality. There was no frontiers left unexplored. Because Winston Churchill protested its release, when it was originally released, it was 2 hours and 43 minutes. They edited it down to 140 minutes for release there.
That's 2 hours and 10 minutes.
When they released it in America finally...
It's actually 2 hours and 23 minutes.
They edited it down.
An hour and 40 minute, 140 minute long is...
I thought he said 143.
140.
So that would be 120.
That's 2 hours and 10 minutes, right?
No, it'd be 220.
You know what would let me get this stuff
Damn
faster if y'all weren't debating time?
No, you didn't. You added 3 minutes.
No, yeah, because he said 143.
No, I said 140.
He said,
can I finish this so we can end this?
You can never finish shit.
And I got my honorable mentions to get to.
James, you're taking another fucking pause.
Martin, I can't keep going because you can't talking.
Never done do nothing.
Martin Scorsese did spearhead the fundraising. It was preserved as a Criterion edition, and they were actually able to reassemble it to the full 243. They found all the materials, luckily.
I'm not doing that math.
And the last director...
Sounds about 4 hours long.
The last director was still alive when they did it and said, thank God people will be able to see it. Criterion edition was released. David Mamet and Stephen Fry both listed as their favorite film of all time. And Roger Ebert, shortly before he said, also named it as one of the greatest films of all time. Said it was a Technicolor wonder. Oddly enough, makes an allusion to Wizard of Oz as well.
Chad, go. Honorable mentions.
Dunkirk.
Yeah, that's on the
you can't forget Dunkirk. It's
just so new.
Overlord. Screw you. It's entertaining. Hi, Mick.
I liked it. I just don't know that it was as good as everybody said. There's some scenes.
It's entertaining. That's all that matters. Then the two hard-hitting dramas of Sergeant Bilko and Down Periscope.
Down Periscope's not during a war. Neither
but
is
it's
Sergeant
soldiers.
Bilko.
They're soldiers.
But it's not a war movie.
It's not a war movie. It's soldiers, though. And then this one's also not... Honestly, I just wanted a reason to bring up Sergeant Bilko and Down Periscope, because when are we ever going to bring up Sergeant Bilko?
Honestly, it's come up more than once.
Yeah, not Sergeant Bilko, Down Periscope.
I'm pretty sure if you went through our catalog, which I tend never to do.
Yeah, no, I think you're wrong. This one also doesn't involve soldiers, but I'm going to bring it up. They are soldiers. Conspiracy. It was a made-for-TV movie. It aired on HBO. It is it is about the basically all these head Nazi officials getting together at a conference and discussing the eradication of the Jewish culture.
Yeah.
So boom, honorable mentions.
It's got Stanley Tucci and
Kenneth Branagh.
Yeah.
Yep.
James.
Quick honorable mention: Combat, the TV series. My grandfather, who was a Purple Heart veteran, I was once told that's the only show he would watch that he said was authentic because it featured them like shaving, using their helmets to hold water and stuff like that. Vic Morrow was the star.
Mm-hmm.
Check out Combat if you've never heard of it, if you can find it. The other one I will bring up, I mentioned working with a Vietnam vet to do a film series. This is one of the films we did. Translated, that means Heroes from Another Country. I know that because it's on the back, as Chad can see. But this tells the story about one of the things that happened when Puerto Rico became a U.S. protectorate was they automatically were drafted into military service for Vietnam. And this tells the story of two of the soldiers. There were 48,000 people drafted into military service from Puerto Rico. And if you know how big Puerto Rico is, that makes them, per square foot, one of the most drafted from into military service for Vietnam. This tells a story about two guys who get drafted. This was nominated, it was an Oscar entry for Best Foreign Language Film. I believe it came out in 1991. I own this copy. I am holding up a copy if you're just listening. But this is one of the films that when I suggested it, the veteran who I was working with to do this film series for students said, after he watched it, he said this is a pretty accurate film for what you could expect. The plot of the film itself is there are two guys that are doing they have to fall behind enemy lines with their group.
He's just going to do an honorable mention.
This is my only honorable mention, Joe. The entire group gets killed except for them. And they end up wandering in the jungle and they begin to hallucinate and starve and be disease and all that stuff. Heroes from Another Country. I'm sorry, Joe. I wanted to add one that wasn't British or American because I wanted us to be multicultural.
Oddly
You
enough,
Black Panther hating
I didn't do a
jerk
lot of
face.
British ones, and Michael Caine taught me that he always watched the American pictures because the American pictures would always the stories were about the soldiers, and every damn time they'd be about they'd be about the officers if it was a British one.
What accent was that?
I don't know.
That's not Michael Caine.
No.
Inglourious Bastards, Patton.
Which one?
Which Inglourious Bastards?
Yeah, because
I've actually never seen the original. I enjoyed Tarantino's. The Dam Busters, if you're a Star Wars fan, which is another British film.
Yes. Yeah.
Black Hawk Down. And by the way, watch the last third of the Dam Busters. It is the attack on the Death Star.
Yeah.
Black Hawk Down, Master and Commander.
Master and
Never seen
Commander. You've never seen Master
and Commander? Peter Weir?
Nope, never seen it.
Dude!
Oh, I bought that, and that's one that it's pretty. It's pretty.
Take it home. The Big Red One. Sam Fuller.
I'm not gonna make that joke.
Glory. Zulu.
Ooh.
You already said Lincoln, Three Kings, Full Metal Jacket, Zero Dark 30, which is not so much about soldiers. And I have to pull out the last one because it really isn't so much about soldiers, but Casablanca.
Yo, no, I mean it's. Actually,
He was a
I will
soldier.
He
echo.
was a soldier, but it's
I will
not.
echo Casablanca with another Bogart film that I just rewatched for probably the 1000th time.
The African Queen.
African Queen.
On that note, that was our war movies. So if you didn't get what you wanted on there, please feel free to text us.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
If you have our number,
Here is Chad's number: 8675309.
Aye.
But no, please tweet us, Facebook us, follow us on
all the medias.
all the medias. We're on all of them. I'm even on Instagram. I don't know why. I post
I'm not.
something from time to
I mean,
time.
I'm on Instagram, and if you follow me, I get a notice. But I think maybe there's 6.
I post
pictures
something
up
every once in a while. But what we need you to do is share and like on SoundCloud, iTunes, YouTube, and Spotify. Please get those out there. Get those numbers up. If you like the show, let us know. If you hated the show, let us know. If you have
And if
critiques,
you know of
let us
other
know.
war movies, perhaps from other countries, that we should check out.
Nah, absolutely. Let us know. Thank you so much. That's Bonehead. Bonehead.
Uh-huh.